Okay, looks like we're live. This is Kyle Gray here on the other side. Hello, Kyle.
Hey, everybody.
And I'm just putting it on the website, so just to have the YouTube stream also on the page. I might be a bit distracted, so Kyle, what if you introduce yourself a bit? Because the only thing we know about you is the snippet in Your Own Way Out in the documentary. So talk us a bit through where you're coming from and how it happened that you got interviewed. And then what happened in the last year since we interviewed you in the documentary.
Okay, well, you guys interviewed me at a very interesting point. So the months leading up to that, I was working at a startup accelerator at a university, the University of Utah. And what I was doing there, or the startup accelerator, was like a mastermind group, but where people come together and try and solve each other's problems once a week. And everybody was here to start a business. And so I was working with preparing people to start their own businesses and solve all of the challenges that come with that. And I had been producing a Hangout on Air similar to this one and came across Dan Norris, who was was growing his startup. He had had it then for about a year, was producing a book and a little bit in the future from there was looking for somebody to bring on and help him with his content marketing, which is something I've always kind of been interested in. I've made a couple of YouTube videos here and there that helped advance me in different ways. I've been a prolific writer for a long time. I've really enjoyed, I used to be a singer, songwriter, and I kind of tie a lot of that in with what I do with content marketing. But anyway, so I came across Dan, and he was looking for a content marketing manager. My plan before then was I had about $6,000, and I was going out to Asia, and I was going to start a business no matter what. And 2 days before I actually hopped on the plane, I heard from Dan and was hired on to WP Curve. So the first day that I had met Dan Norris was actually when we went to film the interview with you. Mm-hmm. And from there, that started a big adventure over the last year of running the blog for this rapidly growing startup, finding out ways that we could produce, a large amount of content quickly, and keeping the quality high. And a lot of that's been with kind of managing guest writers and setting really clear expectations on what we're looking for and helping them dig out the real quality in their ideas, as well as setting up processes so that we don't have to spend a lot of time doing repetitive or mundane work. We want to open as much time as possible for being creative and being analytical. So that's a lot of what I've been doing with WP Curve is creating good content or helping other people create good content and finding new avenues to promote and share it.
And now you are still kind of employed by Dan Norris, but you're starting a new thing. Why is that? Why do you want to change?
So it was part of the expectations of this job was that I was setting out to start a business. Dan was looking for somebody who wanted to start their own business, and he wanted to help them do that. And I'm finishing out my last month with WP Curve right now, and I've just launched my own business, or a new service within the business, the agency I've had for a long time, where I train content marketing managers in the same systems, the same skills and processes that I used to help WP Curve get up to $1 million in annual recurring revenue using mostly content marketing.
So what is the end result that someone can walk away if he has hired you, and how long does it take roughly?
So right now I'm thinking the process is going to take about 3 to 4 months. And the first month will be me working with a startup founder to identify a good content marketing manager, set up a process to hire somebody, and a couple of tasks that we can see who would be a good quality person to have on your team and who would be a good fit. Once we have them on your team, then I will get on a call twice a week, and each week we'll talk about a different aspect of content management and content marketing. So right up front, we could discuss a strategy and what a good strategy would be and what some common misconceptions of content marketing strategy are. Hand them off a template to fill out and to give them a little more direction on what to put in there. And then a little bit later in the week, once they've filled it out, they've done their research and they've tried it, get on another call and give them some feedback and guidance on what they've done and help them refine this process a little bit further.
So you got 8 calls per month and it runs for around 4 months. And after that, that person walks away with, let's say, ideally someone like you who's managing the content for a business to scale it up to more organic traffic and more authority.
Exactly.
So let's say some business owner who's now thinking about doing that, hiring you. What kind of person does that person need to start off with? I mean, let's say they have an intern or an employee who's doing right now just some social media. What are the requirements, like the basic things someone needs to have in order to be trained by you?
Well, some of the most basic elements somebody needs to have is just a creative spirit. There's a lot of people who are all about kind of data-based content marketing right now, but I think at the heart of it, you've got to want to create things. You've got to want to create things that are interesting, and you want to share those. And so, looking for somebody with a proven track record of creating videos online, or having a personal brand, or even working for other companies previously, I think is a really good start. They also need to be able to learn quickly. If you can't learn quickly, then content marketing, or it'll slow the whole process down. You need to be able to see what's happening, analyze things quickly, and then turn it into a lesson that you can share with people. So the whole learning process is very accelerated and very important with content marketing. Also, building relationships. You're going to want to be very sensitive to how your audience responds. You want to respond to every email that somebody sends to you, or at least in the beginning. If somebody likes something, or if you're hearing from people and you're connecting with people, you're going to want to make sure that you foster these relationships, and also foster relationships with other blogs, influencers, and entrepreneurs in your area, and help collaborate on content. And so having really good interpersonal skills is important.
Okay, so let's expand on that a bit. Let's say I'm a business owner and I would hire right now an intern that I want to employ later on, and I would hire you to train that intern. Let's say after 4 months, what are the exact actions that person would be able to do, and how much do I need to communicate with that intern? Do they come back to me after you're done with them, or would they be basically doing certain things totally automatically? And what are these things?
So a lot of this, what they would be able to do is they would have a framework to create they would have a strategy to approach your content marketing. So they would know some problem areas that your customers have. They would know what resonates with them, what's interesting. And they would also have good style guides so that they could create consistent content. You want it to look like, a very professional operation. So you want your headers to look the same all the time. You want your images to look the same all the time. You want the language and the tone of your writing or your videos or whatever you're creating to have a consistency and a professionalism to it. So having a good set of guidelines that you can use for yourself or for the intern or anybody that writes for you. So if somebody wants to do a guest post for you, or you hire a writer to do a quick article, you don't want it to look like you just paid a few people to come off of, what is it, Odesk or Elance, or I'm not sure what it's changed its name recently, but you don't want to look like you just pulled, you don't want to look like you just pulled a lot of people off of Upwork and it's kind of like a patchwork of half-done content. So they'll be able to manage guest writers really well, which is very important to being able to scale up your content marketing. What you can do as a business owner, what you'll need to do and what you'll need to bring to the table is make sure that your content marketing manager has a pulse on what your company's doing, what tools you're using, what challenges you're facing. You'll need to bring them into the storyline of your business and help them translate that into something interesting that people can follow along with. I think one of the big advantages of having a content manager on your team is that they are deeply connected with the story of the business, which is really, I think, the big value in content marketing. You can see a lot of blogs these days, like the Buffer Open blog or the Groove HQ startup journey. And of course, a WP Curve is kind of telling the story of how the founder is working with the business, the challenges they're overcoming. They're being really honest and transparent. And I think that's where the huge value in having somebody on your team and listening to the pulse of your business.
I love this Groove blog. I think it's just awesome how honest and how detailed they write. Let's say you would help the Groove, or a company like Groove that doesn't have the blog like that. I mean, the founder is still writing, right? So the content manager would take the writing and just distribute that, or how would the ideal setup work in a company like this? Or do they have even 10 people doing everything? How do you think is the Groove blog built?
So yeah, I think if we were to offer this service to the Groove blog, it would help Alex Turnbull, the founder, hand off his content marketing production to somebody else. I think they have a couple of writers at least, but this person would be creating new content for you. They would be able to repurpose and promote old content. So they'd be able to go in and see what you've already created and find value and ways to bring it forward again. Whether that's just promoting it again, whether it's taking an idea from an old piece of content and expanding on that more, whether it's converting a good blog post into a slide share. There's lots of different options, and it kind of depends on the tendencies and the skill sets of who's doing that. But yeah, it would basically be saving the founder a lot more time with his writing and letting him spend the creative juices on solving other business problems while somebody else is kind of taking care of the writing and the storytelling of your business.
Okay. I just see a question coming in from Shah. I think that's Shah Turner, I guess.
Hi, Shah.
So he says, in the context of WP Curve, at what point in the journey of that startup did you become involved? So his question concerns priority. For example, would you recommend a business hiring a content manager before a fulfillment manager?
Oh, okay.
Do you see the question? I think it's clear, right?
Let's see. So are we on your own way out?
I mean, I can give you the chat is here. I'm posting it here.
So I see the little chat widget, but I don't see the question.
Oh, it's in the.
Oh, here we go.
Yep, it's in a different software.
So the journey of WP Curve. At what point did I come involved? And okay, so I think the question is when in my startup journey would I hire a content manager versus somebody else, a fulfillment manager? So for the first part of the question with WP Curve, this was just when they started to get a lot of traction. Well, Dan had been building up momentum on his content marketing, and I think he had his idea of the blog had really started to crystallize, and he was starting on launching his book, The 7-Day Startup, that came out just a few weeks before I started working with him. And so he wanted to, he said this a couple of times, but he wanted to write about other things, and he wanted to create content around different topics because he'd been writing about business and marketing for 7 or 8 years. And so he brought me on and trained me in the basics of good content, what the quality should look like, what our voice is, and wanted me to start creating content immediately and managing our guest writers.
Can you recall how much revenue and how many people were on the WP Curve when you joined?
We had somewhere around 20 to 24 team members. I think I can pull up the exact. It was the October 2014 monthly report, I believe, that I was introduced, and we could see what the revenue is. Let's take a look. That's one of the great things about having these monthly reports is you just get interesting little dots on the kind of the constellation. So we had $44,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue at that time.
Can you post that link into the chat?
Yeah.
And it's a bit weird. The Google Hangouts on Air is a bit smaller. Let me see.
The resolution. Oh, maybe that's.
Do you have something open? I'm posting it into that chat. But I'll have a look at the recording later on. So I think they're displaying some kind of chat widget. It's a bit weird, but your image is smaller.
As far as prioritization on whether we would hire somebody, hire a content manager versus a fulfillment manager, I think it depends on the business. But if a business kind of knows it, when I think a business that would do really well with me has a product market fit, maybe they've already been doing some content marketing on their own, but there's only so much you can do as the founder when you're tackling a lot of other complex and challenging issues around a business. And you want somebody, I think a good one is they have a crystal idea of what they want to do and what they want to execute, but they just don't have the time or the bandwidth to do it. So bringing somebody on and having me work with them and give them the fundamentals on how to execute your plan or your bigger idea is a good place to start. If you're, go ahead.
Maybe we go a bit more concrete onto a business example. So in this case, Shah, as far as I'm concerned, I met him earlier this year. So he is building a service where he would put in sketches of architecture, and they would convert it to 3D models. Yeah. So an architect would sketch something, and they would convert it. So let's say you would look at this business from idea stage to like the first 5 customers to something like WP Curve, where everything is systematized and the content process is running here. Yeah. When is the ideal moment where you would introduce content marketing at all, and when a content manager?
So I don't think content marketing is great for all businesses. Not necessarily. I'm not saying anything about Shah's business in particular, but I think it is really important that you have a business that can benefit fully from content marketing. So businesses that, local businesses can do all right with kind of local and geo-specific content. But if you had a mom and pop store and you were writing an article that went viral all over the world, but you only sold your goods in a town, content marketing wouldn't be a good thing. If you have like a service that is scalable, that will grow over time, and you'll be able to meet the growing needs and interact with people globally, I think that will be a good service. I think recurring revenue models, software as a service, do really well with content marketing. I've seen some consulting agencies, of course, do well with it. But yeah, so I think those are the kind of questions you want to answer if content marketing is right for your business. But then when it's at the point where I think if you have your business pretty well figured out, you have a good idea of who your target audience is, and what that person kind of looks like. I think that's when you can bring on a content marketing manager to start executing and communicating with these people.
I mean, you could think that content marketing works best for software as a service or info products, so anything that's sold online. But then there are of course a lot of okay. Shah says it's a bit weird to keep typing. Okay, he says he's ready. That's good. I mean, you see it working for consultants. You see it working for local businesses, depending on where the content is distributed. So, I mean, he's watching my face. That's good. What additionally would you say? How would you approach like implementing content marketing into a business like, let's say, like Shah's, where you have a crowd that's fulfilling things? It's a bit like WP Curve, but it's still a service. You would get it delivered from a fulfillment manager, so that, let's say in this case, Shah is not delivering it.
Yeah.
How would you find out if that actually works? How would you approach, like, okay, we can try these and these things if it actually is something for us?
So I think a good place to start would be creating a couple of pillar pieces of content, which are these pillar pieces of content are you're going to dig really deep on what your core audience wants, or the problem that they have, or something similar to what you're doing. For example, for architecture, they may also be interested in making good sketches, or you want to just meet the customer in a lot of their problems, but not exactly the specific problem you solve. So for WP Curve, for example, we don't really talk about fixing WordPress sites, even though that's what we do. We talk to entrepreneurs and the problems that they're solving in their own business. So yeah, I'm not super familiar with the architectural world, but talking about how you use a drafting software to get a unique result, or interesting ways that architects, can become more productive, or stories of how this architect had this unconventional success. But find ways with your pillar content, find problems that you can solve that will work really, or that will be evergreen. And by evergreen, I mean something that won't ever, it's going to be relevant 5 years from now. It's just a really excellent, high quality solution to a problem, and create maybe 4 or 5 of those posts and try and share them online, share them with forums and communities that you participate in, perhaps some Facebook groups, and try and lock down, do some basic keyword research and see what people are searching for. Another good place to look, I really like looking at BuzzSumo. You can use that tool for a few times a day for free, and kind of get a pulse on certain keywords and what's getting a lot of social shares and what's getting a lot of attention. Or you can look up your another good way to really cheat on this is look at what your competitors are doing, look them up in BuzzSumo and see what their top articles are shared are, and see ways that you can do it a little bit better. Maybe you have a little bit better idea of the best way to make a good sketch, and you can add a couple extra tips on theirs. It's just this is called kind of the skyscraper method.
Skyscraper content, yeah, we can talk about that in a second. First, I want to say hi to Shah. I just got him into our chat.
Hey, Shah.
So Shah, now you don't have to type anymore. You can ask directly, because I think it's interesting to talk a bit about your situation and what we could do about it.
Yeah, like sure.
A very good example.
Well, thanks first of all for having me on, Kyle. Really good to see you, man.
Absolutely, good to see you too.
So, yeah, let's sing the Bacon Pancake song. Anyway, listen, I was really interested in this topic because it's like right where I am right now. So I do have some questions, but I'll try and keep them really succinct. Okay. There's no doubt in my mind with what you're doing and the success that you've seen with Dan Norris. Of course, like, it's so awesome, and I'm really into systems and trying to take that knowledge and apply it to what I do. So the first thing I just want to really, really quickly clarify, just a little for the conversation, what Till was saying, which is, so I've come from an architectural design space and developed a solution where I can actually productize what has previously been like consulting or a service. So in a way, what I offer is like a packaged service, a little bit like, kind of like what Dan's done, a lot of like any other productized service guys have done, which is to sort of take something which is repeated every time you deliver the service, package it up and make it into a product. So my customers, regardless of the scale or scope of the extent of their project, are able to send through a bunch of hand-drawn blueprints of their ideas, their designs. And what I do is, and what my team will be doing is basically translating that from a dodgy sketch from somebody who can't really draw so well into a full professional, industry-leading 3D presentation, CAD plan that's ready to print to scale, that's all the conventions that a professional landscape architect would use to draw up the thing, and they don't have to lift a finger. They just like do a few sketches, and it comes back as something which they would normally need like a whole team of like highly paid landscape architecture graduates, you know, and draftspeople to do. So that's kind of the space. So I'm working for like building contractors, guys that work with their hands, that have pickups and a dog in the back, and, you know, wheelbarrows and bobcats and stuff like that. So the challenge for me is, like, I'm totally down with what you're saying. I'm totally down with the whole content thing. The problem for me is that in the space that I'm in, I'm dealing with people who, there's a code that can be cracked because they are online in a certain sense. Certainly the type of content, for example, they respond really well to video content. And so, and they respond really well to bite-sized stuff. A lot of the feedback I've had is, listen, you are so full of amazing ideas. It's so awesome. I've got 10 minutes this week, and I want one thing I can implement this month that I can really, really actually implement. So they want, you know, they're really in the guy space, like guys. They just want to know. They don't want all the, like, you know, how were you raised and what was your upbringing. They're just like, tell me what I need to do today, and I'll go off and do it. And they want it in these bite-sized bits. So, so that just to clarify kind of who these guys are. They're not necessarily online. Having said that, I'm getting a lot of great results from LinkedIn. Every time I write an article on there, I mean, I'm up to like over 1,000 followers or something like that for my articles on LinkedIn, and I get a lot of great interactions and some opportunities come through there. So that's with targeted groups within my space. Here's my case study. I'm a guy, there's just me and one VA and one design manager who's helping me with fulfillment now. I'm at the point where all of the processes are in place and I'm ready to scale. All I've got to do now is use the list that I've got and all of the people who I've already personally contacted, over 700 landscapers by phone. What happens after I make that first call, as far as my direct marketing strategy goes, I go straight in with a cold call first. Now I need the content to back me up, because they're not ready to buy, because of the nature of the industry, on the day that I speak to them or the week. So we've got to wait for, you know, I say, like, we've got to wait for all the moons to align and the oceans to be at the right, everything's got to come together, and then these guys are ready to pounce on what I do, because they love the idea. But they could be midway through one project with another one lined up, and it's 6 months till they're even in a position to take on a project for which they could send the blueprints and stuff through. So I've got this whole list of this calendar of amazing topics, and some of them I really like. They're great information, really helpful. But I'm so stuck between, like, doing the fulfillment to my new guys trained, trying to keep on top of the calls and the follow-ups, and a content strategy and a manager is exactly what I feel like I need right now. But my thing is anyone gonna, like, I love the idea of your system. I love the idea of these processes. So here's the question: are you able to apply the process and the system that you have to any field with any intern? Because I feel like if I was in the startup apps, software as a service, all that kind of space, online marketing, you'd find an engaged intern really, really easily. If I said to you, I want you to keep the attention of and help dads who become landscape contractors who want to provide for their families and are doing gardens, swimming pools, decks, patios, and outdoor barbecues for a living. Could you find me somebody, or anyone else in a randomly related thing, who's got all the ideas? I know my people. Can you really find this intern? Can I really pay you to sort that for me, or am I really on my own?
So there is an interesting challenge here, where there's a lot of another branch of a good content marketer is a deep industry knowledge and so in your case it's landscape architecture, and I think you would get a lot better traction out of somebody who knew a little bit about that. But I don't think it's or I think that it certainly can work. I'm thinking of I just remember talking to Brian Becker, who works with Anna Wickham at Charmhouse, and I believe he is. I hope I'm getting this right. Definitely fact check me. But he's helping with the social media promotion right now for a couple of blogs, and I think he's writing in the voice or tone of some like 70-year-old grandma to engage with people on social media. And so this kind of goes back into what I was saying, where you want somebody who's a fast and efficient learner. You want somebody who can pick up on the details of what's happening and be able to learn quickly and add to the conversation. So you know, a lot of that learning might come from you at first, or starting this process, or having them kind of dig in and understand what the clients are. I think you know, an interesting place for this person to start would just be to look at some of the articles that you've done already that are resonating with people, and see, like, try it again with, you know, a slightly different twist, and see if you get the same results. And just keep iterating on that, you know, time and time again. And I think as you get to know your audience, you'll be able to, the skills will fill in. Finding the person, if you again, I think if you want somebody with kind of the native knowledge of that area combined with the basics of content marketing, I think that would be challenging to find. You'd have to like look in some very specific forums or where people are hanging out. But again, I think somebody with the basic desire of being creative, they want to learn some good skills. You know, this may not be their dream job, but they just want to learn the fundamentals of content marketing and how to apply that to a business. So I think it is possible to find somebody that could understand your audience and learn how to write to them really well, and they might take those skills and then you know, start a cupcake business and do just as well with it.
How would find someone like that? Where and how?
So I think a couple of good places. I've seen people posting jobs like this on inbound.org, looking around for a lot of our Facebook groups. You know, I think there's lots of people interested in this and the kind of digital nomad hubs. So you know, are you still in Saigon, Shah? Or,
no, man. I just came back to. I'm actually back in Melbourne, in Australia, as of this week. We've had my father-in-law's unfortunately not doing too well with cancer, so we've kind of cut the whole nomad thing off at its legs just for a little while. Actually, just moving on. So, like, I totally hear what you're saying, and in fact, I don't think what comes to mind, and I'm just going to try and propose my own solution for the benefit of other people, because there are some people with, you know, we're all encouraged to drill down and really niche down on what we're doing, and more we're seeing people from traditionally consulting backgrounds working out how to productize a service the service that they offer. And I think that's really positive, and I think that the world's going to keep doing that. So there is something in this, what you're saying. I think for me, some of it, really what you're talking about, just even reading between the lines and looking at the revenue chart that you showed before from Dan, the simple fact of the matter is I'm not turning over 40 grand a month. You know, on a crap month, I'm probably doing 4. On a good month right now, I'm probably doing, I don't know, 8. So I'm not at that stage. But having said that, as we've discussed before, or as I've talked to with Travis Jamison about the intern thing, and looking at how you could, like, for example, somebody like me or anyone with a more niche consulting background could potentially get the interest of someone who's young and enthusiastic in the industry from somewhere like LinkedIn. And could you provide someone like that, who's, say, a university graduate, to somebody like you to work with? And I guess what I'm interested in at the same, so let's say, for example, I could find a young, enthusiastic, social media-oriented, great marketing PR type face, a girl. She's in her early to mid-20s. She's recently finished her landscape architecture degree. She's got a couple of years work experience, and now she'd actually like to see, could she do something while traveling the world? So if we put down a budget to say, well, okay, I could invest in her $800 or $1,000 per month. On top, and that says you can go to Vietnam and just survive. You could do a whole bunch of stuff for that as an apprentice, but she'd be working with you remotely. On top of that, what would somebody like me how much input could you give in relative to the revenue that's being generated by someone at my stage of the business, which is, I'm just passing 600 days. And I'm not there yet, and I'm not on a huge accelerated trajectory. What's the bottom line here to get this result that you're sort of talking about? Can we get someone like you involved for, a relatively affordable price with an intern like that I've described?
So it does seem like it's a little bit early to bring on like a full-time content manager. I think, $1,000 a month could bring somebody on where if you have some basic processes set up, they might be able to target a few channels or handle a few good things for you. Not necessarily the full kind of solution that I was doing for WP Curve or that I'm trying to work with, but you can definitely. I think one thing that I really liked, for example. Jacob Poole does this with FireGang, is he brings on an apprentice with a very limited task set for $300 a month, or sorry, $500 a month. Has them start with that and then kind of scale up. So if they perform well and like they're adding that amount of value, then moving to $1,000 a month and having the responsibilities increase proportionately, because it is a big risk at this point if you if you're making $4,000 a month and 25% is going to
totally.
A content manager. But I think it sounds like you're getting pretty close to the phase where if you can get this thing productized, if you can get this scaled up and working really well. Then I think you'll find that a manager won't be such a heavy investment shortly. Let's see with the
no, I was going to say I mean at least you're suggesting that the apprentice model is legit. Even in this space as well, it's not just for coders or, pay-per-click and that kind of thing people, or Amazon people, that the apprentice model can work in the content marketing as an intern. And I would sort of suggest, maybe would I suggest from what you said, like maybe kind of 10 grand recurring is about that point where you can start to look at that.
I think so. I think if you're at a recurring, if you're recurring and you're confident and you've got those other systems in place, then it does seem like a good place to start. It's hard to tell. I think it'll vary from business to business. Like I was brought on at I guess 44 from WP Curve, but we had a bunch of team members, a bunch of developers, and so it's not necessarily the dollar amount that you're earning, but you do certainly need to be able to afford one and not feel incredibly pressured, because especially if you're starting out really early with content marketing and you don't have a huge amount of traction, and if you're just trying, if you're bringing on a manager and you're just betting the farm on the manager and you want them to really come through, I think that's gonna be a stressful situation.
That's gonna end in tears. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, we talked about that before. Kyle, how much is your service again?
$1,000 a month.
Oh, his.
Yeah.
Yours is $1,000 a month, right? Yeah.
And it takes around 4 months to get someone up to speed, maybe a bit less.
Yeah. I think getting somebody up to speed to make that clear. I don't know if they'll be. I think it takes a lot of time and practice to really refine the art, but you should be able to have the basics of what does a good strategy look like. How do you work with guest writers? How do you create certain kinds of content and have a basic frame how to build and develop your skills? Again, I don't know if you'll go viral or not, by month 3, but it should have the really critical fundamentals to a successful content marketing campaign.
So a solution to this, if you only have a budget of 1,000, try to get someone who's doing an internship for free for 3 months, get Kyle on the board, and then pay him the 1,000 afterwards. I think it's still a fair deal for everyone.
I mean, if that was the only way that you had to do it, but then by the time 4 months went by, if the person wanted to stay on, and you transferred the budget for me to them. If they thought that was a fair deal, you have to how much time this person's putting into your business and how much value you're adding. But I think that could be an interesting solution.
Mm-hmm. Did that clarify enough, Shah?
Yeah, and I like that approach, and it is a lot of what I've kind of been thinking. And I'm doing it. I'm sort of asking these questions is not only on behalf of myself, but I guess for just I assume you'll probably be recording this conversation, and then just for other people because obviously the thing that you're doing and what you're standing for is to assist people who are. I mean, obviously there'll be people at various stages of that journey, of your own way out, and that was. One of the things that's been on my mind is I totally agree with I'm sold on the whole concept of it. Love to be able to do that. And the question is, am I ready? And as you said, clarified, not just yet. But I can see that once you're in a position to do that it can really accelerate things. I just got to slug it out for a little bit longer, which I'm, maybe 3 to 4 more months, I think, and then.
I think and what I would advise in this situation, if you wanted to bring somebody on, is maybe you get started kind of defining these processes for yourself. And since you've been writing LinkedIn articles or you've been writing videos, can you create processes so that somebody else could take over on these things for you really easily? It's really difficult. I've found it very difficult myself. If you don't have somebody to hand the process to right away, how to create the process is a little slow, or it doesn't make logical sense. But yeah, if you do have it in mind, I'm bringing somebody on and I want them to be able to do exactly this, and just giving them lots of screenshots and every single step. In the process, no matter how mundane. You log into Infusionsoft and it almost every time a pop-up will show up asking you this, and you click X, you know, to that level of granular detail. And also, you know, trying to document or at least like trying to write down and get a pulse on, okay, well, what is really working? Is this kind of video working, or is that kind of thing? And keeping a little bit of document this if you do choose to hire an apprentice. They're just not kind of like dropped into the deep end and have to figure it out.
Yeah. Why does there always have to be work involved for me?
I know.
Great. That was great that you jumped in, Char. You're welcome to stay in. I would just quickly like to ask about the future path of Kyle, and then I think we can wrap it up. Cool?
Go for it.
So, Kyle, you're building the service now. Do you think you can productize that? Do you think you can build a big business out of that? Or what do you think are the next steps, let's say in the next year? How would that look out for you? And so then in the future, what's happening?
How I envision this is I expect I'll be working with a lot of very smart people and helping them develop really good processes and seeing how these ideas can be applied in various different markets or for different startups. A good way that I can see this kind of scaling up or meeting more needs is by taking a lot of these ideas and maybe creating a more structured online course for people, and this could be a good solution for you know, somebody who's in a little bit earlier stage and doesn't have the budget to do quite a hands-on thing, but just wants to learn the basics of content marketing through a course or get a certification with that. Where this gets interesting is as soon as I tell people I can help you train your content manager, they always ask, where do I find one? And if I had a course available where I was starting to connect and build a community of people who are interested in this, I think it would be a good way to say, okay, well, you know, here are some of the really engaged people in my community that are looking for an opportunity just like this. And so I think that's an interesting way to connect people who want to access these apprenticeships with people who are looking for apprentices. And so I think there's a lot of interesting potential there. And being somebody who's kind of come from working in higher education and spending a lot of time at universities, providing an interesting solution for university students or students who are at least of university age but maybe haven't had a university background, but you know, are hungry and want to learn and want to be creative and want to find their own way out, and you know, want to do that by learning from a great entrepreneur, which I think is an excellent, you know, form of education these days and is more and more relevant to our times, where everybody kind of needs to develop a unique skill set that's personal to them. So that's kind of how I see this business developing over the next year. I don't know, the sky's the limit, I guess, or I'm not sure what's going to happen over the next few years. But again, I do think that there's a lot of value to be had, and there's two big communities that I see I can serve, and so there's a lot of ways to expand.
Perfect. We should have another interview in a year from now or so.
I can't wait. Yeah, it's gonna be exciting to see what happens a year from now, and I'm absolutely available for it.
Great. And you're also available for your training service still. So where can someone find you on the web?
So it's conversioncake.com. Yeah, I'll put the.
We put the link to the page as well. Great, Cal. Thanks so much for your time. It was a good time. Thanks.
Absolutely. It was a great time. Thanks for coming on, Shaw. It was good seeing you again. And yeah, if anybody has any questions or any other ideas, please reach out to me at kyle@conversioncake.com, and I'd love to talk to you.
Perfect. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good one.